here.
Yeah, I can change
Will
up
we
the
go to the
environment
fire?
too. Yeah, let me switch it up. We can go back to the fireplace setting.
I was trying to think of like why this really looks so familiar. Then I realized I saw him speak at Chicago e-learning showcase. Like
Chicago e-learning, yeah. I was there this summer. Yep, that was a fun little trip.
Look at that picture.
Ooh, they added a new one. Let's check it out.
I'm in Iowa, so I just drove right up to that one. So that was kind of handy.
Uh-oh, I don't see anything.
Hey,
Oh. Well, this one's kind of neat. Different. Oh. Kind of hard to get around a little bit on the, well, I'm on the browser. Neat. Should I take us back to the fireplace? Or the campfire?
You can custom build your own spatial locations now, can't you?
You can, and they actually, I think they have a new like Unity Creator Toolkit so that you can create spatial environments in Unity. I hope I'm remembering that right. Maybe it was for a different platform though, but you can, yeah, in just import any 3D model into a blank environment. Like we had here I'll need to switch it up to find it, but we have another model imported in here that I can demonstrate that with. Let's see if we can find it at the campfire. I think sometimes when we switch, things get a little moved around. So there's this guy here, the little model with the train. And then if I just increase the scale of it, we all sit in. We're inside of it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very neat. I would imagine a lot of people probably hopped into spatial after AltSpace got sunsetted, huh?
Yeah, I know.
Not quite sunsetted yet.
It's not yet. Are they giving you 12 months?
March
24?
10th.
Oh, jeez. Only March 10th.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody follows Thrill Seeker on YouTube. They do kind of news recaps and stuff, and really great channel about all things virtual reality and XR. They just announced a lot of change in the business of VR right now, and a lot of companies are planning layoffs and terminating their XR programs. Microsoft is a big one. They're scrapping everything. AltSpace, HoloLens, their reality, I think their mixed reality toolkit or some other programs that they had going on. They're apparently pulling out altogether.
Mesh? They're going to get rid of Mesh?
I think if that's Microsoft, is Mesh Microsoft?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they would hang on to that, but wow.
Yeah, go check out Thrill Seeker's channel on YouTube. He just released a video like a couple hours ago today because so much has happened just in the last like 2 days. Lot of bad news for headsets, for XR companies. Yeah. but it's a little bit of a VR bubble, right? VR bubble bursting.
Yeah, a little bit. I don't know. I think maybe the expectations weren't level set quite right. I don't know. I'm just speculating here based on my opinion. But I think as soon as everybody saw Ready Player One, they were like, oh, yeah, we want that.
Right.
So.
Not quite there yet.
No, and I imagine, I'm guessing I won't see that level of fidelity in my career as a learning and development professional.
Maybe. I think the advances in hardware will change the experience so much. In hopefully the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I've been saying that for the last 5 to 10 years.
Right.
Hoping that the advances would hit. Yeah.
Yeah, that's also true. It's easy to be hopeful when you're in the industry, right?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I think that the reason that I think what'll help us have longevity in the industry is being hopeful, but also practical, pragmatic about expectations and making sure that you're not just throwing good money after bad and everything else. So I think there's a lot that goes into it that we can still find an awful lot of space to do this type of work. It's just a matter of being a little more, I don't know, strategic about it, I think.
Definitely. So you recently released your TD at Work guide on bringing training to life with virtual reality. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
You bet. So first off, thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it. I regretfully say that every time you guys have a meeting, it's always like I always hear about it the day after. Like I just never have my calendar quite up to speed. So this is only like maybe the second or third time I've been able to join. But yeah, I was fortunate enough last year at ICE. I was talking with the group and I said, you guys, your TD at Works are showing a significant lack of virtual reality. And they're like, well, we hire you, right? And then by hire me, they said, we'll let you do it for free for us. So that's essentially what, the TD for work, right? It's just, it's all about getting your name out there a little bit. So it's not like they technically did that. But no, it was a great opportunity to sort of put together kind of a foundation of sort of where virtual reality is today. I was able to sort of outline a couple different processes that I think the industry is sort of seeing going forward. I dubbed them, kind of VR 1.0 and VR 2.0, and was able to really kind of go in and provide a lot of that foundational level knowledge, as well as sort of a toolkit at the end where you can kind of a cheat sheet to sort of help kick off and answer some of those questions you need to answer in order to get started with virtual reality. So first off, just real quick, I will let you guys know I've been traveling for the last couple of weeks, and my cold did catch up to me, so I've got this cough. So if you hear me just mute, like in weird spots, it's because I don't want you guys to have to listen to me hack and cough away while I'm doing stuff. So, but I am still here and everything there. No, but it was great. It was an opportunity to kind of work with TD with ATD. They've been a really good partner over the years. I've been fortunate to be on the ATD-TK PAC, the planning committee. So they bring in some industry, some people in the industry who are sort of diverse in what the things they do, the tech knowledge PAC. And I was able to go in and kind of sort of learn what they're doing behind the scenes. It's actually really interesting how they put together all of their events, the kind of things they think of. They're not necessarily always the things that we think of as attendees. They think of a lot of other things that go on in there, and just building that kind of relationship over the years, where I could be like, hey, you know what? Here's an idea that I have for something, and it'd be great if you guys provided some resources and helped me make that a reality. And they were really good about saying, yeah, we would love to partner with you on this.
fantastic. I'm curious, as you were embarking on drafting and writing your TD at work guide, do you have like a specific learner or goal in mind that you were sort of striving for with this issue?
I think the biggest thing that I had was just I tried to go back to all of the questions that I think clients, customers, colleagues, friends ask me about what I do, right? That doesn't make any sense. Why would you do it like this? Or what are the types of tools that you use? And I sort of started just grabbing onto that and just making outlines of things, right? So if I needed something where I could just have a book in front of me and I needed to have something quick and dirty that could help me to understand, if I sat down for, an hour or so, read through, filled out a few things, and then I was able to have a better grasp of the concept of virtual reality, what kinds of information would I need? So I kind of started there. I reached out to a lot of colleagues and friends and was like, hey, if you needed something at the beginning, what would you think? So I did take a lot of that into consideration with that types of information. But a lot of it, I don't know if anybody was fortunate enough to attend DevLearn last year, the Virtual Reality Summit. I kind of used that a little bit as a template the last couple of years as well as, sort of capturing a lot of the questions that people were asking in those types of environments. I'm brand new to this, and this is the type of stuff that I need to know, or I've been in this a while, but these are a few things that I'm still trying to understand better. So unfortunately, I only get about 15 to 20 pages, I think. I had 10 pages of content, and then another 3 pages of a tool, of a resource, right, to get going. So yeah, it was really just kind of taking some of that foundational knowledge and just seeing how much of it I could get in there and how much they would let me get away with. My first rough draft was around 35 pages, and they were like, "Yeah, this is no bueno. It's not going to work." So we need to adjust that. And I was like, "But this is all the stuff they need to know." And they're like, "I appreciate that this is what you think they need to know. However, this is what our printer needs to know." Right, 10 pages. So yeah, there was a lot of back and forth that way too. And then in the end, I kind of just had to take my best guess at what I thought was the most important, and hopefully that I rolled the dice the right way on that one.
What made them decide on the link that they decided on?
As far as
why'd they say so few pages?
Oh, this is the standard format for this type of document, right? This is what they budgeted for. This is what they'll print to, that kind of stuff. So it was less about, we're not saying the content isn't valid, but we're saying we need to come up with a more concise message of that content in this format. They're like, hey, if you want to write a bigger book later on, we can certainly talk about that. It's also tough too, and I appreciate where they're coming from with technology, that as soon as you write it down on paper, right, it's out of date. So, it's entirely possible that a year from now, somebody looks at this and goes, what is this guy on? Like, seriously, this isn't how we do it at all now. So you have to be very kind of aware and cognizant of that too. I know Debbie Richards did a TD at work on augmented reality in 2018 or 2019. And I was looking through that the other day, and there's a few things that are dated in it, but for the most part, I think that she was able to capture like that foundational knowledge to help people get started, and I kind of use that as well as sort of like, okay, what kinds of things have legs, right? What are some universal things that are always going to be around? Like, we're always going to need to know what six DOF is, or we're always going to need to understand certain things about hardware, right? Regardless of whether it's 1 year from now or 3 years. So yeah, I think back to your original question, the biggest thing was that they have a limit as to the amount of money they put into something like
It was probably good for you to have to be so concise.
Yeah, I tend to be very verbose in the things that I write, and it was nice, but it was also challenging because they provided an editor, right? Everybody needs an editor. I totally am aware of that. However, We did fight a little bit on the tone of the way things are written, and in the end, I'm about 90% like super happy with how it turned out. But there's a few like paragraphs I read, and I'm like, oh, that don't sound like that. Like, come on, what do you do? So yeah, it was nice having it concise. Having an editor is very helpful, and they're like, wow, you have a very colorful writing style. So here's what we need to do. So,
Take all the color out.
and some of it, right? Some of it. So I use a lot of extra words when I'm writing. So I write like I talk.
I think even for
Has anybody had a chance to take a look at it yet, by chance?
I looked for it, but it said it was unavailable.
Oh no! Well, I tell you what, I have a handful of copies they gave me. So if any of you see me at an event, I will have one, and I will happily give you one until I run out. So
awesome. I have a question. What if you could pick out like 3 highlight concepts, like 3 like of your most important nuggets from the guide? What would those be?
I think probably in today's sort of environment, we were kind of talking about this before, where there's a lot changing in the tech industry. A lot of big name players are starting to lay people off. They're starting to cut their XR programs. I think fully understanding sort of the development process of where we currently are with a lot of that development process for virtual reality, and where a few groups are striving to get to, right? That VR 1.0 and 2.0. So that VR 1.0 concept is really where, as learning developers, we gather all the information, put together all the pieces like we would normally do for a learning development plan or learning development project, and then we have to hand that off to the development team, right? We work with them as close as we can, but I think for the most part, there's a lot of we're hoping that they understand all of the things that we told them and gave them, and then there's those iterations that come back and forth. So you're starting to see where the developers who are not learning and development professionals, they have to make some best guesses and do what they can, and then those iterations are time consuming, and they cost extra money. If we need to change text or an image, we're paying $175, $200 an hour to a development team potentially.
Right.
With that VR 2.0 concept, the idea, the price of doing business in virtual reality is that we have to have a development team of some kind, but there are groups out there, the Motives of the world, the Tailspins of the world, and to a little bit of an extent, the Scenario VRs of the world. They're providing us a vessel or a tool like a Captivate, where we can start to author some of this content on our own, and we're able to sort of take part of that back, right? If I need to change text, I can go in and update whatever text I need to change, swap out an image, maybe adjust a teleport area, maybe mess with an interaction of some kind and provide some feedback. And I can do that with me or my team, from the learning and development side. So we can make sure that it gets done the way we need it to get done, because we understand the process and we understand work with the SMEs to make it all happen that way. So I think that those are the types of tools, those codeless drag and drop authoring tools, that's really going to be the future of this virtual reality thing, this virtual reality game that we're playing. So the more groups that can build those types of tools, we'll just license something like that, similar to how we do we would license a Captivate or an Adobe kind of a thing, where we pay a license fee for a year, and then we have we have people on our team that are upskilled on that tool that can then author that content. So I think the VR 2.0 is the way of the future, and that's going to help us save money and keep VR alive for quite a bit longer in learning and development.
What are your thoughts on something like a development toolkit designed for learning developers, like a Unity development toolkit specifically for training and L&D applications? I haven't seen anything like that specifically. I know a lot of the ones out there are built on Unity, but the interface it's not like not like a toolkit anyone can just import into Unity.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say, so, sorry, hang on one second. I have to stay measured in my cadence, otherwise I start coughing. So yeah, I don't think Unity. I think Unity is always going to be part of it, but I don't know if an interface on Unity is necessarily where we're headed. I think that there will be some kind of a cloud-based interface that we work with, where we're able to connect the Unity pieces to that, and then all those things sort of work that way. Like we would use this cloud-based development tool to then author that content. I don't think Unity is really geared for or designed for, I don't know, the L&D space. And I don't think that nobody I know of, at least, is interested in necessarily putting something like that together, because building is one thing, keeping it up to date is an entire another thing. So I think that as groups come along and have these sort of standalone development tools, I think that's really where we're going to see the most growth and benefit. Unity or Unreal or whatever game development engine is being used, it should be, whatever engine should be agnostic to the authoring in that way. So that's what I'd like to see, and that's kind of what I am seeing as we're seeing some of this stuff kind of move forward. So, but yeah, I don't envision. I mean, I could be 100% wrong, but I don't see anybody lining up to be like, hey, I want to make a user-friendly, learning and development-friendly interface for Unity. I just don't see anybody doing that.
Yeah, and the adoption of something like that, there's still the intimidation factor, I think, of something as kind of involved as Unity. I've played around a little bit with Scenario VR, but what other tools have you used? You mentioned Motive, and I haven't seen too many examples of the tool, but if that's something you want to tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, so StoryFlow by Motive. So StoryFlow is a cloud-based tool, again, that's connected to that back end inside of Unity. I think you can reach out to them and get a free trial to give it a shot and see if it's something that works. There's a little bit that goes into it. I mean, you have to set up your own, instance, your own workspace, and then, you have kind of a practice area. You still have to have the environment created, the assets created, the animations. Like, VR still, like I said, the price of doing business is that we still have some of these extra skills and needed, necessities that we as L&D professionals typically don't have or don't have on staff. So, but yeah, StoryFlow, Tailspin has one for
Copilot.
Avatar. Copilot, there we go. Yes. So Copilot, Scenario VR is a 360 image and video editing tool. I know that you can do 360 work in
I think it's
something
limited
like
to 3
Adobe
DOF.
Premiere. I'm sorry?
I think, Scenario VR is limited to 3 DOF experiences, but it's very easy to use. Like if you can handle storyline, you can handle Scenario VR for sure. It's very intuitive.
Yeah, it is. The challenge with any 360 content is that you have to be able to capture it. There's not a lot of good libraries for it, even though it's been around for a really long time. The concept of 360-degree images and stuff like that. So
you really need your own method of capturing that 360 image or video. And I mean, same could be said for even 3D models in either 3 DOF or 6 DOF. A lot of the time for training, those are going to need to be specific to your company's equipment or what have you, environment. So you
more than likely
generating those assets and that's a challenge for a lot of businesses.
It It is. One of the cool things I'm starting to see, and actually the co-pilot kind of brought this up to my attention, or back to my memory here, was that, soft skills or power skills are one of those things that I think get overlooked a little bit, and how beneficial practicing those types of skills in VR can be. And those are a little bit more generic, right? I can have a couple avatars having a conversation in Office A or Break Room B or Warehouse C, right? So there's the potential for a marketplace of some kind. I know Immerse has, they curate a lot of third-party content for their little VR in a box thing that they do, where they give you, I don't know, one price for 5 headsets, 5 Pico Neos, I think is what it was, and like you can pick 5 different trainings, within that price point. So I think the next MacGuffin we're all chasing in this space is going to be that marketplace. How do we build that library of content that's easily reusable or easily accessible, and then give that, and then tag it and sell it to the crowd. So
yeah, I remember hearing about that build or VR in a box from Immerse on Betty's podcast earlier this week.
Yeah, I think she had Heath on there, didn't she, from Immerse? So, Yep. I was just we were just in Orlando for Training 23, and ran into them down there, and they always they do some pretty neat stuff. Like,
Smart
I think
concept.
that they're more. One more time.
Oh, smart concept. The VR in a box kind of kit to get companies started with VR. It's a great idea to kind of break people into the market. Get them more comfortable with the idea of VR training. Open the door.
Yep. I was. They had a tool, Immerse did, that was like a hub that managed your VR devices, right? Some of the less sexy things about VR that we don't think about is like device management and how does it connect to your LMS, right? We all have LMSs that we're beholden to, and 80% multiple choice things that we have to do and stuff like that. So it's there's a lot of things like that we have to make sure that we can do. And I think that most groups didn't start off going, I wonder how I can make this compatible with a system that's SCORM 2004 kind of a thing, right? Everybody was like, no, XAPI, and everybody's like, I spent way too much on my LMS, I'm not going XAPI, not a chance, right? So we all have these LMS albatrosses of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and challenge.
I'm curious, in your work and all of the clients that you've worked with, because a topic of conversation that comes up often in these meetups is measuring learning outcomes, and whether or not our VR training has been successful, and how do we do it, and we've often talked about SCORM versus XAPI. What are you seeing out there in the market as being prominent, or what folks really do want out there in the field?
Everybody wants it to connect to their LMS, so that's what I see. Everybody they're like, that's non-negotiable. It has to connect in some way, shape, or form, right? Whether it's a check mark that says I did it. A lot of times, the developers will put it together where it's connected in the LMS. Click on the link in the LMS, and it gives you a code that you then go into your headset and load up the APK that they gave you, and that's the code you use that connects the one-to-one learner to the LMS record, right? I think that everybody's very excited about the fact that we're like, hey, you know what? We can also capture all of this other kinds of data, right? We got to figure out why Desh's standing in the corner staring at the fire extinguisher for 10 minutes. Like, did we not give him enough instruction? Did we not, was the fire extinguisher just that cool, right? So I think everybody wants that hands-on practice that they're seeing. And then for better or for worse, the LMS connecting SCORM is kind of that non-negotiable piece that everybody really, they need. They don't start off saying they need it, but by the time they finish having their conversations with their leadership, they come back and they're like, so anyway, we actually need this probably more than anything else. So it's it's definitely a challenge to try to convert all of this massive XAPI data set into like five different, the SCORM captures like 5 things relatively well, right? But being able to do that kind of stuff, I think a lot of groups do that. I know the few that I've worked with, they have ways to do it. Like it can send that information into a SCORM bundle. I think another thing though that people realize very early on, especially with procedural virtual reality training, is that once they get people in the headset and they start performing these actions over and over again, everybody's really surprised just how second nature going from the headset to the physical actions in the real world can be. So I did there's an open pit mine that I had been working on for a couple years, and we kept iterating and building new stuff onto it. And one of the project sponsors was working on his PhD, so he was using all of the data collected to actually support his thesis that VR is, I'm paraphrasing it terribly, but VR is great and it's much better than in-person learning, right? So he was able to actually sort of track that typical forgetting curve. Within 24 to 48 hours, we've forgot 80-ish% of the things that we've seen or been a part of in a classroom. And with VR, that hands-on practicing the exact same content, we see that after 2 months, there's still a 70% retention on answering the questions and also performing the tasks that they trained on. So
that's incredible.
Some of that is a little bit anecdotal. I don't necessarily have anything to point to. I keep asking Keith if he could give me his data, and he hasn't yet. So as soon as I do, though, I will definitely share it out. I encourage him to share it out as well, because I think he'll have a very eager audience to see that. He's been collecting data now for the better part of 2 years on it.
Wow.
And that's kind of unheard of right now in the
Yeah.
industry of being able to actually see it in action, So
I would love to see
especially
that.
with such high visibility, we were able to build it for MSHA, right? So they have to train their people every year. So seeing that and having such a high profile sort of set of data to collect is it's pretty cool. So.
Fantastic. Yeah, that'll be something to watch out for sure.
Yeah, I was really hoping that by now we would have more. Honestly, I was really hoping we'd have more of a lot of stuff at this point.
Where's my jetpack?
What do you like about it the most?
Virtual reality?
Yep.
I think that being able to be transported to anywhere, anytime, any place is like magical, right? Growing up as a kid, I loved, the holodeck on Star Trek, or being transported to futuristic places, or, I think being able to do any of these types of things, like you can practice anything, anywhere, at any point in history, right? As long as you can create it, you can use it, and that to me is it's just amazing.
I'm curious what you see the future of mixed reality for learning and development. Have you created any mixed reality solutions? Or I feel like I've never even seen one for learning and development before. So I'm just really curious about that space.
Yeah, we actually we're working on one for a group where they wanted to be able to use a HoloLens to scan a piece of equipment and have it pull up all of the different important information on there, right? So we had started down the road to that. They got wind of some of the prices for the HoloLenses, and scaling is not when it comes to that kind of stuff. And this was before they fired, or they let half the staff go too. I think that I'm actually really surprised that mixed reality doesn't have more support, more proponents, because I really think that once we have that device that we put on our face, I don't even think I can explain how big of a paradigm shift that's going to be, where we can stay in the real world and, for lack of a better term, all have this kind of Iron Man heads-up display that gives us data or help or information about all the things that we have. I just think that the possibilities for something like that are kind of endless. A couple of really practical ways I've seen it being used today is through gaming. There's a VR game called Demeo. Has anybody played that? It's sort of a Dungeons and Dragons-esque game where you can connect with 4 other people anywhere in the world. You give them your code and you can all hop in. Well, with the pass-through, with the better color pass-through, you can do it on your Quest 2 as well. But with the Quest Pro, with the pass-through, you can actually lay out the D&D board like right in front of you on a table or on the floor or at wherever you're at, right? So being able to take things like that and drop them into space where you can see them but still see the world around you, and then have other people remote in and be a part of that conversation, like that I feel like has a lot of potential for, to like change the way we have meetings or change the way that we design or develop anything that we do. I think right now having meetings like this inside of Spatial is great, but imagine if we could all just project the fire and we all just see each other's holograms hanging out around the fire, right? Then it's very surreal. I haven't had a chance to develop anything like that. I'm interested to see the next iteration of pass-through on the Quest 3. Hopefully this year we see that. When I'm talking about pass-through, it's either the black and white or the full color camera that when you're in the headset, for the VR headset for the Quest, you can see the world around you. Even at this point with the higher resolution one, it's still a little grainy. Like you can tell what's there, but it's still a little bit staticky. It kind of makes you sick a little bit if you stare at it too long. But yeah, I think mixed reality has a lot of potential for especially just that moment of need learning that we all have. Like we'll stop searching for YouTube videos and we'll just look at something and it'll analyze what it is. And it'll be like, oh, are you looking to open this? Are you trying to unlock this? Are you trying to fix this? Are you trying to change the light bulb? Whatever it might be, I think that there's so much potential there for just, I'm having a problem, and the HoloLens or the mixed reality device can help you with that problem instantly. So
that sounds really neat. That makes me wonder. I wonder. AI is like all the hype right now. Do you think that the advances in AI that are happening, this year and potentially next year might help to expedite our adoption of MR?
I don't know. I don't see a direct one-to-one correlation between the two at this point. I think that the AI tools have kind of been floating around for a while, but they all of a sudden are getting their 15 minutes, right, of fame. Like everybody's all of a sudden on the Chat GPT train and, the Mid-Journey build my own images kind of a thing. So I'll be interested to see where it lands once the hype goes down. Myra Roldan is doing a fantastic job. Chad Udell is doing a fantastic job of sort of navigating these waters and providing a little bit of guidance. There was a video editor, all of a sudden his name escapes me. I can see his picture. Gosh darn it, I can't even think of it off the top of my head. But I know that he was doing some really cool, some using AI, ChatGPT, and Mid-Journey to sort of storyboard out and plan for video editing and things like that. So I didn't mean to run my avatar over there to cough over the corner. That was kind of funny. I just went to hit the mute button, but I accidentally clicked the ground and it totally he was running out of the way, so he wouldn't cough on you guys. So super nice of him.
So if anybody, sorry, I just wanted to mention if anybody is interested in learning more about the pass-through stuff, I think I recently posted a video from, I think it was XR Bootcamp, that had a presentation on where they mentioned some different methods of pass-through and gave some examples of how it's used in different games. And that was a can't miss webinar. I thought it was really great. So I think the link to it is in the Slack channel and on LinkedIn. Sorry, go on.
No, you're just fine. No, I think that AI will play a part in it, Kristen. I think that will be in there. But I don't know. I don't know if I have the vision at this point to necessarily see what that is or how that necessarily benefits mixed reality or virtual reality in the moment. I think the way that I see sort of natural language processing, so using that kind of like the Lexes and the Cortanas of the world, using those to connect avatars for maybe more seamless conversations. I think it would be really interesting to connect ChatGPT to your avatar and have anything you say just go into ChatGPT and then it spits back an answer in real time to you. I think that would be very interesting. I don't know how beneficial it would be in the moment, but I think it would be very fun to have a physical conversation where, you know, the avatar responds back as ChatGPT or as an AI tool would then let you, would do something like that. I think that would be neat. I've talked with a few groups and they've thought about it, but nobody's actually implemented that yet. And so you guys are going to do that. Definitely let me know. I would love to see what it does.
Yeah, that sounds like a really cool, and maybe not connected to ChatGPT, but I stumbled upon this like People AI, which has like it's almost like a chatbot for like historical figures and like pop culture figures. So, I mean, I can imagine, you know, if you were to like speak to someone like Queen Elizabeth I in VR, that like something like some AI-driven chatbot like power that sort of what you're looking at some point. But I mean, I would love that experience, but it's not made yet. One of the things I was curious about, you know, when you're talking about pass-through and mixed reality, I'm curious about how things like pass-through might increase or decrease, or maybe it might not even affect like levels of like presence or immersion of someone who's experiencing it, as compared to something like fully immersive VR.
You know, I think mixed reality, especially if you get it out of your hands, right? Especially if you're not holding a phone or a mobile device of some kind to do it. I think that anything where you're hands-free, being able to interact, is going to definitely improve the immersion. And I think there's a lot to be said for people being in a familiar place or being able to see the world around them, and then still have that digital overlay of content, right? Standing in front of them or sitting at a table next to them or what have you. I think there's a lot of potential, and I think there may even be, and I don't have any data to back this up, but I feel like some of the people who are reluctant to put on a full headset and be completely immersed, there may be a few converts that would be like, okay, well, as long as I can still see the table I'm sitting at, I'll try this out, you know. So maybe we can, maybe we have the ability to bring in a few more people. And I don't know what the data says on this either, but I wonder if you know, being sick or having things like some of that motion sickness that people get fully immersed, I wonder if mixed reality, that wouldn't be a little bit less because they can ground themselves to something in the real world, right? In real space. So.
Definitely some good considerations. Yeah.
I feel like kind of how like Oculus Quest 2 does, like actually, it's not like when you're in VR mode, it does the VR experience primarily, but like I don't like how the Quest 2 actually like when you're kind of like looking at your like initial screen, it'll like shows like the room around you, like when you're setting up your boundaries and so forth. So there could be something there where, like originally, like the first like generation of VR headsets didn't have that at all. Like it didn't show you like any kind of like outside of your what's in your headset, but kind of like how like they're using like the cameras within your headsets now, like to show you actually your environments. Like it's kind of like a black and white mode, you know, kind of version on that. So
Yeah.
I kind of like that mixture a little bit. You know, like you didn't get that before. You know, like the Quest 2, I think, or as far as I'm aware, I've only had like a few different headsets, but I like that feature though, where it kind of show you like your environment with a camera. It'll use the cameras on the front of your headset to show you your environment around you too. So
yeah, and you know what's
sure.
what's giving me what I'm encouraged by is that in the last several updates my Quest has seen, there are more mixed reality type elements that are becoming available. It was a while back, but I was able to actually show where my computer screen was and my keyboard, right? And that'll stay persistent, and so I can see that. And they've done more and more with the pass-through cameras, with the limited cameras they have on the Quest 2, in order to better identify objects around you and see things that are happening. So I think that they are sort of gearing towards a release of some kind where we'll see a higher quality pass-through camera that may help us bridge that mixed reality gap until we get a Google Glass or an Apple super mixed reality device that they're talking about, right? I was reading the other day that the Apple mixed reality device is going to have a dial on your forehead that you can turn for mixed reality and VR. And I was like, that's weird. Yeah, I don't know. It's like, I don't need that. I need you to just make it, like, I just need to pick, like, from a menu. Like, I don't need a physical dial.
I could see some application, but I think, like, currently, with the Quest 2, you just double tap on the side if you need to see where you are. So I think that's intuitive enough. Except for when I end up doing it on accident, adjusting the headset.
Yep. No, and the Quest Pro has that same thing, and I think I don't know what the release window is, but I think before mid-year, I was thinking we would end up with the Quest 3, or at least it would be announced. So that might be the last one we get for a while, though, depending on how everything goes.
Yeah, I think we might see, with all of these company changes and layoffs and program changes, we might see a little bit of a slowdown in some of the hardware production. But, my hope is that companies are going to, take stock and maybe go at it a little bit more thoughtfully and not just so much as a reaction to the market and trying to get like the next thing out to make as much money off the hype as quickly as possible. Like, I think ultimately we'll see better headsets and better hardware out of it.
Yeah, I imagine at the meeting when good old Zuckerberg announced the metaverse, everybody was like, "Whoa!" And now that's kind of an that's the anchor that's weighing him down, because everyone was like, "Well, what's this metaverse? What's it going to be?" Right? So I think that term in general has sort of kind of skewed our view, or the industry view, or thinking it's all going to be this thing, as opposed to just sort of like a collection of technologies. And yeah, I don't know. It's all very interesting the way it went down, and in hindsight, I think a few people would have liked to have done it different.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who are not a fan of the idea of it being Zuckerberg's universe or Zuckerberg's metaverse. But where there's money, things will will change and things will happen. So for better or for worse.
Yeah, until advances in hardware become more accessible to the regular folks like ourselves, and we have a little bit of knowledge to put something together. We have to rely on the Apples or the Facebooks or the whoever, right, the Googles, to come up with the device for us at this point. There's just nothing else we can do. There's some other little ones that kind of pop up here and there, but I don't ever see anything that sticks around for a super long time. So
yeah, if anybody is interested in kind of seeing what other headsets are doing, some of the smaller companies, Cass and Sherry have a YouTube channel that's just recently recapped some of the CES 2023 expo booths or presenters that had some of their hardware, and there were some interesting things I hadn't seen, and she talks pretty succinctly through the kind of the pros and cons of them, and what's unique about those different headsets. So that's another great channel to follow.
So one thing I will say, I know we've talked a lot about the cuts and things that are going on, but I did see that Tencent, I don't know, they're a company in China. They are looking to strike a deal to sell Q2s or Quest 2s in China, which is the biggest video game market there. So I think a boost in something like that is entirely possible. That it could be an influx of the type of money needed to continue going on the way we had talked about it. The way we've kind of hoped they would go on with something like that. So yeah, we'll cross our fingers and see if, as long as there's some money coming in,
Yeah, that may change the market quite a bit. Well, we've got just a couple minutes left. Anybody have any other questions for Destry?
You guys think of anything after the fact, please don't hesitate. If we're not already connected, please connect with me on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to schedule some time and we can have a virtual coffee and chat. Or if you're going to be at any of the big events that are happening the rest of the year, the Learning Solutions, the ICE, the DevLearns, chances are pretty good I'll be there too. So
awesome. I'll definitely see you at Learning
Which is
Solutions.
the best in-person thing for VR?
Oh, one more time, I'm sorry?
Which is the best in-person thing for VR?
DevLearn had quite a few people there last year. AWE, the Augmented World Expo, is probably a good one for that.
Yeah.
Or probably CES. Like, they're going to have the most latest and greatest stuff. It's a little bit more of a everything, right? But yeah, there's also it happens in Houston, industrial immersive industrial. Conference. Let's see if I can find it here. Industrial immersive events. That's a pretty good one. It happens in Houston, August 28th through the 30th. Houston, Texas, at the Omni down there. And they have all the big names. Let's see. I send this out to you guys. Here you go. So industrialimmersive.com events. I thought that one was a great one. It is just XR, right? It's just VR, AR, XR, 3D, digital twin, all of the latest and greatest stuff that's happening in that space. So if you're looking to spend money to learn more about that, that's where you can go. That's where I would recommend going. So I'm hoping I can swing it, but I don't know. I got a lot of travel this year. I'm not sure I could necessarily want to add any more in.
Well, awesome. I think this has been one of our greatest XR and LXD conversations yet. So thank you very much, Destry, for the great conversation.
Yeah, thanks so much for chatting with us.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for having me, and I look forward to seeing everybody out and about.
Awesome, yeah.
Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Have a great
Bye,
evening.
everyone. Have a great month. See you next month.
Bye.
See you then. Bye.
Bye for now.
Bye.